I love hearing a good success story. And this conversation with Blake Borgstede, he talked about how he went from a corporate job to the real estate business and how him and his wife confidently bet on his hard work and ability to provide to become a successful real estate agent. And if you want to hear Blake's story, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. Blake, welcome to the residential series of the Arena podcast.
Blake B.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Glad to be here.
We got Lauren here. She's going to be the co-host on these real estate segments likely going forward, which is exciting because she has a lot of good insight. And then we, of course, talk to real estate agents about how they operate their business and kind of let the world know more about them, because I think that there's a lot of options out there, and the best and top agents are the ones that are able to separate themselves. And I'm excited to tell people about why Blake has been a top agent in our market for, 3-4 years now?
Yeah. Just over here. Yeah. About 3 years.
Remember the first time we met?
Yeah, we had lunch.
At Lola?
Lola.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
like a dating test. Remember the first time we met?
Yeah.
Did you have butterflies when you saw Jared's locks?
No, he definitely gave me a little bit of he was testing and making sure we knew what we were doing too. He had just moved to the market because you were operating in Baton Rouge and you just moved over here. So let's talk a little bit about your background, about before we met and whenever you moved over here, what you did kind of before real estate, how you got into real estate, and how you got into the team that you're on now.
Yeah, for sure. So originally I'm from Metairie, and so still have a lot of contacts over there and do a lot of business over there as well too. But school I went to no longer open now. Ain't there no more, like they say. Yeah. So, but
You made the T-shirt.
that's right. But now I went to Southeastern for college and had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do when I got out of college. Was my major was sport management, so
Cool.
I wanted to work in like an athletic department or
Yeah.
a professional team.
My wife got that same degree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So she knows how easy it is to get that degree, right?
Yeah.
So it was one with an incredibly easy curriculum, and made some of my best friends there. All the people who were in my wedding were there. Met my wife there. So great memories there. Funny enough, my first job out of college was in sales, but I was selling ice cream for Bluebell ice cream.
Cool.
So
that is the best ice cream.
It
If
is.
you're gonna sell ice cream, I'm selling Bluebell.
What's your favorite Bluebell ice cream then?
Butter pecan, easy,
no,
done.
it's not. It's it's not. It's the cookies and cream cone.
So they have cones and chunks in it.
Yeah. So it used to be a single serve of like cookies and cream cone, and then when they got rid of that, they made it actually into an ice cream. And so it's like that's
We're
best
solid
one.
cookies and cream purchasers as well. Homemade
Yeah.
vanilla, cookies and cream, and then a small butter pecan for mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I just like the strawberry. I like a good strawberry ice cream.
We do have a good
it's
strawberry
good, it's good,
with the
it's
fresh
good,
strawberries
it's good.
in it.
Oh yeah,
It's good.
All right, so this is an ad for Bluebell.
That's it.
You're
right.
welcome.
So, but it's funny. They actually have one that's strawberries in the homemade vanilla. You ever seen that one?
Yes.
Homemade vanilla ice cream with
All
strawberries. in
right,
it.
so we're all
That
having
one's a
ice
good
cream
one.
tonight.
That one's a good one.
So what did you learn while you were working on that job?
Nothing about sales.
Yeah.
Like Lauren just said, it's like the best ice cream. So you really don't have to do that much.
Oh, yeah, true.
Really, it gave me a crash course in management. So it's helped me now, and it's funny because that's a type of company who has a very low percent of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who work there, they stay there for a long time. And I was there for like a year and a half, and I was gone. But I managed like 5 or 6 people, and every one of those guys were old enough to be my dad.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, I had to prove myself and kind of gain their respect and just try to do everything that they could from the beginning and just be like, hey, look, I want you to take me serious. I'm 22 and you're like in your 40s and you've been doing this for a long time. And I'm going to wake up and go on that 4 a.m. route with you and go deliver ice cream.
Yeah.
We'll see how the sausage is made, right?
Yeah.
And but it wasn't what I went to school for. It wasn't what I was passionate about. And for those who don't know about sport management, it's a industry that people are just trying to pay you as little as possible because there's so many people that want to do that type of thing. And so for me, I ended up finally getting into that field when I left. When I left Bluebell, I was able to get into the field, and I worked over at Southeastern in the athletic department for a little while. And so I worked for a sponsorship company selling corporate sponsorships.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And
Were you actually
fast
selling
forward,
there?
yeah, I was.
Okay.
I was, and I did really well. I really enjoyed it. It was pretty rewarding, incredibly demanding, just long hours.
You had to go. I'm sure you had to be at the sporting events too, and all that type
Yeah,
of stuff.
I mean, think about during baseball season. I remember, they had like 3 home series in a row, and I'm working all week. So I mean, that was like, 26, 27 days in a row of work.
Yeah.
Of nonstop.
So you're probably greeting sponsors, making sure that everybody's taken care of, and that their ads are where they need to be. So Stephanie had the
Yeah, we
same-
called that fulfillment.
Yes,
So making
yeah.
sure that fulfillment was done.
Which is a
And-
cool job because I mean those you learn how valuable it is to have that advertisement and the placement. But we are sponsors of the Saints, and so it's also funny to see that sometimes those people just go because they're that big of a fan of Southeastern. So
Right.
sometimes it's easy to sell that too because somebody's a diehard fan and they want to be a part of the legacy of Southeastern, which is. As I'm learning, is a pretty cool place to spend your time, and the athletics is good, and the business degree program is really great over there.
It's only gotten better.
It's gotten
I mean,
great,
I
yeah.
went there. I started in 2010, and nobody knew anything about Southeastern. And then it's like a couple years later, they had a couple really good football seasons, and then it's just like it put them on the map,
Yeah.
like out of nowhere, and it's stayed at that level and continued to grow since. But yeah, I mean, so I worked there for probably close to 2 years, and this is something that I talk about to people all the time. So people that know me know this story all the time. But one of the things that I really like to make a point of is I always say that everyone should get fired at least once in their life.
I heard you say that before, actually.
Right? Everybody should want to get fired.
Because it's so much fun. Like
Yeah.
you are smiling.
I don't
So much
I
fun.
don't wish it upon anybody. I don't mean it maliciously. I think but what it does to you as a person is what really is going to determine, what those how you react to it.
It can
right?
propel growth.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so I was in a really good position where I was at. I turned down a promotion, and a couple days later I was fired. And so
That's a big change.
It was, and so it just pushed me to. I found another job in like 3 weeks. I think I just like applied everywhere to a bunch of places and stuff like that, and it took me to Baton Rouge. And so, but there was somebody here, somebody on the North Shore in the Hammond area. He's a real estate broker, and he had told me from the very beginning he was actually one of my sponsors at Southeastern,
nice.
and it was somebody who I went to high school with. And at the time when I got fired, he was like, "I want you to come sell real estate." And I was like, "Dude, I have like no money." I was like, I can't take on a 100% commission job like as I unexpectedly got fired.
Yeah.
My wife at the time had no idea, but like 2 months prior to that, I bought her engagement ring.
Oh, wow.
So like whatever money I had was gone.
Yeah.
And so I had like all my plans just like got put on hold. And it was funny. I had my safe like under our bed at our apartment. And for like almost a year, like that was like under where we slept. And she had no idea for that long. And, but it gives you some perspective when you get pushed, like you're back against the wall, when you had like no idea what you were going to do next. And what was funny is that my housing arrangements were tied to that job too. So not only did I lose my job, I had like a week to find somewhere to live. So thankfully I was able to move in with my future mother-in-law. She lived a couple minutes away.
Nice.
So, but like I said, 3 weeks later, found a job that took us to Baton Rouge, got into digital advertising. And it was with a fast-paced, automotive-centric advertising agency. And I will tell you, I don't know how I got that job because there was so much on the job training that got me up to speed with all that stuff. I was like, I truly didn't know how I got. I don't know if it's because my availability was pretty good.
Yeah, you're available. You're ready to start quick.
But I think it was, and sure enough, I ended up I think I got hired on like a Thursday. I started that Monday, and I
Nice.
was like, let's go. I was
Yeah.
like, need to make some money.
Sure.
And so yeah, I was there for a little while. And what's crazy is that through that time, just never was fulfilled. You know, it was a lot of long hours with that. Very, like I said, very demanding. And there was something just calling me. Like, I just feel like I was missing something.
What year was this?
This was 2018.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was 2017, 2018.
Gotcha.
And I got to a point where I was just like, maybe this just isn't it. And so I was coming home every night, and I was like talking to my wife. I was like, I just feel like maybe I should try this real estate thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I knew for a fact that my current job was not going to be cool with it.
Yeah.
So what I did was, like, I decided I was going to take the online courses at night, and so every night I was hitting the books and going the online courses, my pre-licensing course for it. And I had this all planned out. I was trying to interview for another job. I ended up finding another company that I really liked in Baton Rouge. That in my interview with him, I brought it up to the president.
Yeah.
And I told him that. And he was like, yeah, as long as it doesn't interfere with this job, like, have at it.
Yeah, little did he know that it was going to interfere enough to get you.
Little did he know, right? But he's still a great guy. I like him a lot. So he was always cool with it. And so I ended up leaving. And when I got this job, that new job in Baton Rouge, it was the same industry. It was digital advertising, but it was more overall. The clients, the industries were a lot more vast and just different ones, where the other place was like strictly car dealerships around the country, and that gets old quick. You know, you can only talk about 0% financing for 36 months on a graphic so many times.
Yeah.
You know, but so then I moved to a new company that was I ended up moving. I was in account management at the previous one, and I was able to get a sales job at this next one, which I was super, super excited about.
Did they give you a lot of training in those jobs about sales?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was like an inside sales job. And so I answered directly to the president at that job, because he was like when the previous guy left, the president was selling. And so I came in, I was fielding inbound leads. And
Was he good at selling?
was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And so, he built the company enough to be able to sell it to a large corporation.
Oh, nice.
So I would think he did pretty good with it. And so here I was. I spent the next almost 3 years selling websites and digital marketing campaigns, and also selling real estate, starting in 2019. And so
you've been in it for 6 years.
So I've been in real estate for 6 years. Half of that time has been part-time, and half of that time has been
Oh, so you had
full-time.
3 years of part-time while you were working at that company. Okay.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
It was just under 3 years.
And I know who you worked for, the first real estate guy you worked for. Is that who kind of talked you into? Is that who you were talking about? Talked you into getting your real estate
Yeah,
license? Okay.
I'll plug him.
Yeah.
Clay Relly.
Yeah.
Clay Relly with Remax
All right,
Select.
Clay.
And no, Clay's been a friend to me since we were in high school together. Now he's like 5 or 6 years older than me, but we had a small school and everybody knew each other. So, so yeah, he was where I first joined, and so I did a couple deals there. It was a little difficult, me living in Baton Rouge and his offices being in Hammond.
Yeah.
So we kind of went our separate ways after a couple months. And I joined an independent brokerage in Baton Rouge called Pennant Real Estate.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've had some great mentors.
Absolutely.
Because Leo DeSalle is also a really great dude.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
And, so being able, I was with Leo for like just under 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this is still coming from a part-time approach. And,
what about those guys that drew you to those companies? Because, I mean, you're talking about three very direct type of leaders when it comes to how they run their team. They're very systematic. I mean, me and Leo used to work out together. He's a machine, and he's very much like by the book, process oriented, and he's got a small brokerage of the very productive agents. Trey's very similar where you're at now.
Yeah, and it's nothing really profound. I worked out at a gym that had one of his agents there, and that agent helped me buy my first house, and he knew that I was going to be getting into real estate, so he took it a step further with me throughout my process of buying my first home, and he went into further detail about everything. And then like I said, a few months later, I was still good friends with that agent, and I just approached him. I was like, I think I want to change. And so Leo and I met, and we had a great meeting, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward, like I said, a couple years, I was hitting this ceiling, where I was hitting about a max of about $1 million in volume every year in real estate, which is fine. When you have a full-time job, maybe you're selling
4 or 5 houses a year. Yeah.
4 or 5 houses a year for $1 million. Maybe you got an extra $15,000-$20,000 pad in the savings account. Maybe you go on a nice vacation or something like that. But I just felt like, I was like, how long can I do this?
Yeah.
How long can I maintain this? I said, I didn't have any kids at the time. I was freshly married back then. And I did a deal while I was still at Pennant, I did a deal with Whitney Willard.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a pretty challenging transaction where we had it, multiple offers, we ended up winning it. It fell through a couple more times, and then Whitney came back to me and was like, hey, let's try to make this deal work for what we had, and ended up giving my client a better deal. And I was looking for a new job at the same time too, and I saw that the W Group was hiring for a marketing director. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I can go get on with him, do this. Maybe I could kind of continue what I'm doing a little bit here and still sell real estate, but actually like do stuff in real estate marketing wise. Well, it turns out that Whitney like talked me up like crazy because apparently I guess I did a pretty good job in the transaction. It's, might know what I'm doing, I guess, even at part time. And so Trey and I had this long conversation, and this guy convinced me in like 45 minutes of like, why? He's like, I could give you this job, pay you $50,000. He's like, why don't you just come work for me as an agent, and we'll make double that.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I, we mulled this over for like a week, just trying to figure out like, is this the right idea? Like, here we are. And I just said, yeah, like, let's do it. And so
it's funny how whenever you, like, I had a similar conversation before we started Arena with somebody that I respected in business. And this was like before I had talked to any of my partners now. And I was just like, I literally walked in the door and I was like, I will take any job at this point. And he was like, dude, don't do that. Like, go do what you like whenever somebody sees that kind of thing in you, even if you doubt yourself a little bit, it is a little push to go and take that step. Because I mean, it's hard going from a salaried role to not making any money and taking that risk and starting your own business as a real estate agent. To make that jump, especially with a new family. You might have the confidence in yourself, but you also have to have the support of your spouse. So all those things kind of play a big role in it. And having that confidence, it's funny. I know your personality enough, but the fact that it only took you a week, sometimes it takes people years to get to that point.
Well, I was actually convinced a couple days in. It was my wife that had needed to convince. She was pretty terrified of it, and so sure enough, we ended up making a decision. And the crazy thing is that it's like it's one thing to put your 2 weeks in at a job, right? But I had to put my 2 weeks in at my full-time job, and then that same day, I told Leo that I was leaving.
Yeah.
So I quit my brokerage and my guaranteed salary plus commission job, and jumped in with both feet.
Yeah.
And funny enough, like the last week of my full-time job, like in my last week notice, my wife walked into the living room with a pregnancy test showing that we were expecting. And it was like this thing just hit me. It was like, you have this sink or swim.
Yeah.
Like the why just got massively bigger, right? And so I knew right then and there. Now she told me, she said, I'll give you 3 months. I'll give you 3 months to figure this out.
Yeah.
If not, you got to go find another job. I said, okay. I was hoping you'd say 6. 3 it is. Then. Yeah. So I don't know if I would have been as successful if that wasn't always in the back of my mind, that we were going to have a baby before this year was over. Mm-hmm. And so when I joined the W Group, I bought in immediately. And I think it was like mid-year 2022 when I joined. And I had maybe 500,000 in volume closed. That the end of that year came around, I was at over 6.5 million.
Go.
And
You did $6
that was
million in
basically
6
that was
months?
basically like 7 months. It was
Wow.
like 7 months.
That's incredible.
And all I'm like kicking myself. I'm like, why did I not do this sooner? But no, I knew everything happens for a reason. And it's funny, my wife works remotely, and obviously, you know, I sell real estate. But we got to a point where I jokingly told her around Mother's Day that year, I was like, why don't we just move? I was like, because she wanted to be closer. We were the only ones of our family that were in the Baton Rouge area. We wanted a
from
little
here?
bit of, she's from here.
Gotcha.
She went to SSA. And she wanted a little bit of that free babysitting, you know.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But so I ended up bringing up the tray, and I was a little nervous about that conversation. I was like, man, I'm doing so well. I'm like, I don't want this to go away, you know, because I owed a lot of it to him. And when I had that conversation with him, it went very differently than I was expecting, you know. And it ended up being, instead of me hoping that I was still going to get some opportunities if I came over here, to, hey, I've been thinking about opening or expanding to that market. Why don't you run it for me?
Yeah.
I was like, that's not what I was expecting to talk about with you today, but
also, hell yeah.
but also yes, absolutely. And so, you know, later that year, like the end of 2022, we opened an office here, you know, expanded our team from Baton Rouge, and we had like 3 people back then. And fast forward to now, it's, what are we in? July 2025. And we're at 11 agents. We'll probably close anywhere from 150 to maybe 200 houses this year.
That's crazy.
And so,
What's like 60 million in volume?
I'm terrible at the math.
Yeah, that's what I
But
mean. If knowing the average price
if
right
I
here,
had
it's probably
Trey,
between
like, right
50
here
and
next to me,
he
like,
would
I know
know
he
it.
would spout it off.
Yeah,
but
no, it's between 50 and 60 million, I would
Yeah.
bet. Yeah, I think it's great. But you know, I want to talk to you about the difference between, and I know it's a lot to do with being able to focus and going full time, but the systems that the W Group has, I really think is important to talk about. Because you obviously had the ability to do real estate, right? And you had some relationships that allow you to be successful. But like, what has the team brought to you to be able to go from Baton Rouge to St. Tammany Parish and continue the momentum? Because I don't remember it being much of a lag between you getting here and able to pick up business pretty quickly.
Correct.
What part of the system do y'all have that allows you to run faster?
You know, I think we're insanely efficient. You know, we have an operations director who every single day of his existence with our company is trying to make our jobs easier. You know, I always say this, and I'm going to offend a couple people when I say this, but when agents are thinking about joining our team, I always use these stories, and I say, you see on social media a lot of agents who brag about doing paperwork at like 11 p.m. at night during the week. And I always say, that's not the flex you think it is.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be doing that at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to be sleeping.
Yeah.
You know? And so for me, I think if we can continue to be efficient and find ways to be efficient, that's probably what's a big reason for what allowed us to not have a lag.
Yeah.
And I think the first full year of me being here, I still hit over 6 million in volume.
Yeah.
And so in 2023, that was a tough year, you know, as we all remember. And so
Is that what that year was? It was 2 years ago that you moved over here?
so I moved in end of 2022.
Gotcha.
And then so that first full year was 23 and still hit over 6.
Yeah.
And I mean, I scratched and clawed probably every dollar of that.
Yeah.
Because that was a tough
Tough
year.
year, yeah.
Yeah, we decided to also open
Right.
a
Our
title
own
company that year. We were like, are y'all crazy? I'm like, we got
Twins.
Yeah.
this. Done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the efficiency is a massive standpoint. Very consistent. Having Trey in our corner, honestly, is he's just the guy.
Yeah.
You know, and he's easy to follow because he's not all talk. He walks the walk, you know, and he's incredibly disciplined. And look, I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's like more disciplined than that guy.
Yeah.
You know, because I could sit here and tell you about all these cool disciplined things that I do, but I'm like, I know I'm probably like slacking
Yeah.
on a lot of those areas.
Well, and that's the two things.
It's having a leader to look up to.
For sure. The two things that stand out in your story is one, I believe, and I tell this to my brothers often, and I think this is true, that everybody goes through something in their life or has a culmination of maybe a couple of events that kind of push them to have that realization of what it means to actually work hard or have something to actually work hard for. Yeah. And, you had a couple of things, you got your back against the wall, and then you have a kid and you realize that you're the leader of your family and that you've got to produce. And I think that might lit a spark for you that allows you to catch the momentum and grow. And then we've talked about it several times before, like when you take that priority and you have the responsibility and you give your commitment to your partners or to your team, and there's no choice. You just go and execute on that, right? And it's not like you said, it's not a flex to say you're working longer or harder, but it's just the responsibility of becoming better and doing the things you need to do and discipline in order to get where you need to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Showing up when you're tired, when it's hard, just show up.
But also as we are in that game, right? There's always, you have habits that you have, and everybody's trying to grow, and putting yourself on a team with people that can help motivate you or that have been there before you or give the insight, hold you accountable. Like all of those things is what allows you to take that step and continue to grow. And so, people ask, what's the point of being on a team, or what does the W group do for Blake Borgstede? In my opinion, it gives you the processes and accountability and efficiency so that you can continue to be the best agent you can be, and you're doing it efficiently, and you can do it and enjoy your job long term, as opposed to burning yourself out or trying to do everything because you feel like you're the only one who can do those things without having the team around you to support you.
And look, I'll tell you, from the very beginning, I was like very anti team. Like from the very beginning, and that reason was due to one of the very first transactions that I ever did. I was doing it on the other side of the transaction was somebody on a team, and as I'm going through it, I end up having to talk to a couple of different people who are handling transaction. That I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, who are you? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know you. I'm doing this deal with this person, but like that person's name is on the sign. Who is that? I don't know who that is, and so I quickly found out, I was like, some of these teams are just like people at the top and like these minions who are doing the grunt work.
Yeah. And
for maybe a guaranteed salary or maybe not, maybe a lower percentage of something. And for years, I was like, I'm never doing that. And then when I joined the W group and I realized that like we get credit for our sales and we have all this like autonomy. Like you're not forcing us to be here at these specific times or something like that. And it just opened my eyes up to see that they are not all created equal.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between management and leadership.
Yeah.
Right? The teams that you describe as somebody that wants to manage their process and they happen to do it with people, right? They put people as part of the process. You have a leader I can hear it in your voice. They're motivating you and they're holding you accountable and they're giving you direction. Yeah. The process is the byproduct that just supports you. Without that motivation and without you feeling that you have the autonomy to grow and become better, it means nothing.
Oh, yeah.